Good morning and welcome to Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. And Sheriff, good to be here with you today.
Another great Tuesday, right?
Another great Tuesday indeed. And I know, one of those passionate topics for you, our youth. We did our anatomy of a homicide study, which was really revealing as it relates to some of the core issues we're facing.
Yeah, it tells us that we've got to do a much better job of addressing the problems our kids are facing. And I was reading some articles this week speaking to not only here in Tallahassee, Leon County, but all over the country. We're having the same problem. For the first time, I believe the number of kids being killed by guns outnumber the number of kids being killed in car crashes.
Wow.
And that's phenomenal. That's the first time in the history of the United States since we've been driving.
Right.
And so it tells us we've got a huge problem out there in our community, in our country, and we've got to figure out ways of dealing with that and dealing with it more effectively. And one of the things we think can happen is to have interventions early on with our kids. The other thing I talked about quite often when I was Secretary of the Department of Corrections was trying to avoid kids going deeper into the criminal justice system. Some of the research tells us that if you can prevent a child from having any negative contact with law enforcement,
Right.
they're very likely to have better outcomes. The flip side of that is any contact with law enforcement, for some kids, it usually winds up with them going deeper into the process. So that's where the mesh point is, you might say, that we've got to focus on in our community in terms of how we deal with these kids and how we help our kids.
Absolutely. It's all about getting them those resources and getting them to them early. And I know today we're talking about one of our programs within our Youth Services Department, our civil citations, and it really is a way to catch them early on and to provide some resources, but also hold them accountable.
Yeah, I tell the story all the time about the way, when I was a kid, way the families intervened. I remember stealing some apples from my neighbor's yard, and my neighbor caught me, and she called my mother over, and they worked it out. And basically, they worked out where my little fanny got whipped.
Right.
And they made sure that I did work for her to pay back for the theft I had of the apples. And that's what civil citations really is all about,
Right.
is having the families engaged, law enforcement being not a referee, if you will, but not directly engaged, and allow the families in the community to work those problems out. That's easily done with misdemeanor type crimes, and most of the time we're talking about our kids, we're talking about misdemeanor crimes.
Right. Well, it's definitely a topic we're going to dig deep into today to talk about those civil citations, how those programs work, and how it is benefiting youth in our community. So thank you, Sheriff, and be sure to stick around. We've got much more coming up, but first let's check in with Jimmy Goodman for our Crime Tip Tuesday.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jimmy Goodman with the Leon County Sheriff's Office, and this is your Crime Tip Tuesday. How to protect yourself when walking alone. Time's changing again. A lot of people are waking up early in the morning to get their exercise before they go to work. Here's a few tips to make sure you're safe. Avoid the dark, vacant, and deserted areas, and use well-lit, well-traveled routes. Avoid the dark hours if you can. Always carry a flashlight with you and your cell phone. Dress in reflective clothing and comfortable shoes which will not hamper movement. If you think you're in trouble, move away from that person or that threat if possible. Join any group of people nearby. If they're across the street or in front of you, increase your pace. Have a great week. Be safe out there.
Welcome back. Joining me now is LCSO's Executive Director of Youth and Young Adult Services, Leslie Rabon. Leslie, for the viewers out there, talk about what is exactly the Civil Citation Program all about?
So the Civil Citation Program is a alternative to an arrest. So this program allows our deputies the discretion, instead of arresting a youth for a misdemeanor offense or minor ordinance, it allows us to put them to a diversion program where we can give them services, any of our, through our partners with Dis Village, but also it allows us to give them community service hours. We can even refer them to our Back on Track program. But what this program allows, it gives the youth the opportunity to, go through these steps and then not actually be arrested for a minor offense.
Now, I was talking with Shonda a moment ago. What does the family play? What role does the family play in the civil citation process?
The family's key to this. One of the things with the process is, say our school resource deputies, for example, if they have an issue on campus where it's, say a minor issue on campus, and they divert the child through the civil citation process, The parents or guardians actually have to agree to allow the child to participate, because there is some involvement for them, getting them to their community service hours. Also, if there's any program recommendations, counseling, back on track, or if it's, maybe we find out through the assessment that the youth has some other needs, the parents have to agree to these services, and that helps them complete the whole process.
Okay, now, is that the civil citation program, is it just here in Leon County, is it in Tallahassee? How broad is this civil citation program used?
So it's in every county in the state of Florida. So all 67 counties have the ability to offer this diversion to youth. Within Circuit 2, which is our circuit here, our processes go through not only the state attorney's office, but also Dis Village is one of our partners. So if you reside in Leon County, you're from here and you've got connections to Region 2 or Circuit 2, we can issue a civil citation in lieu of an arrest.
Okay. Now, felony misdemeanor, who's eligible for a civil citation? Age, that sort of thing?
So civil citations, we are limited to our misdemeanor offenses, batteries, thefts, where there's no restitution. We use that a lot when we have minor issues on campus or out in the community, like if you have two people that just get into a physical altercation, but it's mutual combatants, we can use it there. We typically focus it on our middle and high school youth. At 18, it does cut off. But it really depends on what the offense are and really what the other needs are. I know one of the things we've been talking about a lot around our office is possession of, marijuana less than 20. Even though, there's a lot of conversations in the community, this is a way you can divert someone who has, minor possession of marijuana. And then it also gives us the ability to recommend counseling and put them through drug counseling through this program.
So now, I talked about the apple and my mom, and so what happens with these kids? What kind of corrective actions are taken if they get a civil citation? What do they have to do?
It depends on the offense. Again, all of the kids that are given the civil citation, we actually I say we as in Dis Village, they put them through a screening process, and they will address the needs from the initial arrest, but also any underlying needs they may have. So part of their sanctions under civil citation could be, attending family counseling, it could be community service. So through that entire assessment, that is how the sanctions are determined.
And last question in this segment, what do our officers, what are our deputies, police officers, deputies, what do they think about this program?
We've, in youth services, that is a great piece for us to use. The diversion, but it's also an opportunity for the deputies on patrol and the police officers in the community to provide another opportunity to keep our youth out of the actual judicial system, and kind of gives them that second chance.
Wow. Leslie, thank you so much, and I can't say enough about our school resource deputies and the jobs they do, and your leadership for getting us where we need to be. So thanks again. Coming up next, just how many civil citations has the LCSO issued, and how are we working to improve the program? Stay tuned. We're back with Leslie Rabon, LCSO's Executive Director of Youth and Young Adult Services. Leslie, we're talking about civil citation programs and what happens after a kid has gone through the civil citation program.
There's a couple of things. So we have what we refer to as a successful completion, meaning that all of the sanctions that were laid out before them, they've completed them. We've seen some of our kids, finish their sanctions within a couple of weeks. And with COVID, we had to make some adjustments where we had to extend the opportunity for them to complete those sanctions, within that 90, sometimes 180-day mark, just because of the program, and having people in there and social distancing. So if they successfully complete it, they're done. It's like it was never on their record at all. It's like the arrest never happened.
We talked a moment ago about the parents. The crucial part of the civil citation program is getting parents involved. Do we have the occasion where parents just refuse to be engaged in the civil citation program? We
do, and it's kind of surprising because we're providing an opportunity to not have an arrest on your child's record, but we have had parents decline participation in the civil citation program and actually tell us to arrest their child.
Wow.
And that's that's frustrating sometimes.
Wow. Well, that leads to this other question. What happens to a child who gets in a civil citation program but doesn't complete the program? What happens to that child?
For kids that we consider unsuccessful in the program, it reverts back to their original charge that we made the law enforcement contact with. We will actually finish the case, get a warrant for them, or in the juvenile world, it's pickup order, and then we proceed with a formal arrest with them. And a lot of times, when we do that, we utilize our juvenile investigations team to help facilitate that process. Now they will make contact with the parents, let them know they were unsuccessful, and a lot of the times the parents will actually bring the child to us for them to turn themselves in.
Well, you just can't believe that with this opportunity of civil citation, we avoid the child getting an arrest on his or her record, and we still have parents that won't cooperate with us. Talk to us about how successful you think the program is here in Leon County.
This is an opportunity for families to, not go that step deeper into the criminal justice system. So I think from that standpoint, it is a phenomenal opportunity for those in our community. And as a sheriff's office, especially I revert back to school resource deputies. If there's an opportunity that we cannot put handcuffs on a child and we can divert them, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. But it also allows us to not only, give them this kind of get out of jail free card, but allows us to really talk to them and get in and mentor them. I think it's a phenomenal program.
Yeah, one of the things I've tried to do is to track exactly how many civil citations we're issuing, how many that are being issued by TPD, and I try to look at what's going on in the state and see how effective we are with the civil citation program. What do our numbers look like here locally?
In 2021, we issued a total of 81 civil citations from LCSO. From that, we still have some of those youth that are still in the program. So looking at the success rates, we see about 60% being successful. Again, COVID threw us a couple of curveballs at times with getting them to be able to complete it in a quicker manner. And we have really done internally a pretty good job about educating some of our new deputies, but also re-educating the old deputies, how to use a civil citation and the discretion they have when it comes to those.
Now, I was recently at a town hall meeting, citizens requesting that LCSO and TPD do a lot more civil citations. What's the percentage that we're issuing? What's the percentage TPD is issuing? And you want to talk about what some of the initiative we're putting in place to improve the program?
As far as, I can tell you what our recent stats are. We're rolling into April. We are right on schedule. We've done about 22, I believe, civil citations for this calendar year thus far. So we are right on track to probably exceed what we did last year. TPD's numbers, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I do know that they, along with us, are looking at ways to improve that process. We have some upcoming meetings with the state attorney's office and some other community stakeholders where we can look at ways to actually improve our program.
Well, I am counting on you guys getting that done. It is one of the vital things that we're doing in the Leon County Sheriff's Office. And Leslie, thank you for your leadership and our school resource deputies out that are doing a great job, and all of our deputies and police officers as well. So thank you once again. Up next, they're the first trained point of contact in an emergency. Local 911 dispatchers share why they chose the career. That's in our Deputy on Duty segment. Stay tuned.
In today's Deputy on Duty, we take you behind the scenes of the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. It is one of the most critical departments within Leon County.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
When you dial 911, the CDA is the hub that connects you to all four emergency agencies: the Tallahassee Police Department, the Leon County Sheriff's Office, the Tallahassee Fire Department, and the Leon County EMS. The dispatchers have to perform the first line of triage in emergency situations each and every time they answer an emergency call.
It's really hard sometimes for us to get the information we're needing, which is the pertinent information that the officers are asking us to get, or the deputies.
Sometimes you get a call, you hear screaming in the background, and you're like, hello? Hello? And it disconnects, and you're like, okay, well, something's happening. So you try to get the location.
The dispatchers must identify the most imminent threat and get accurate information from a caller as quickly as possible, and that includes your location.
This is policy. We have to ask you these questions. We have a way to structure that to where when it's delivered to those officers or those EMTs or those firemen or those deputies, they know exactly what they're coming for.
And what you don't know is that units may already be on the way to your location. The dispatchers save first responders precious time at the scene by asking all of those questions before they get there.
We do understand that what you have going on is a dire emergency, and we're here to help you.
But when the dispatchers hang up, specific calls can haunt them for years, and most of the time it's those calls involving children.
It was of a child that was having a hard time breathing and was choking on something. And so I had to sit there, and I was like, I had a child at the time. And I'm like, what if this was my child? So you have to sit there and try to get those thoughts out of your head at the same time and just, I gotta focus on this caller.
And sometimes, because dispatchers do feel a connection with the person in trouble, they never get closure because they don't always know what happens following the incident.
There's one call that I took with a 2-year-old that had been dropped off at a fire station. He was no longer wanted or could be taken care of by his family. And out of all my years of doing this, I've never let anything personally impact me in that way, but I actually went as far as to try to adopt that child because his story was personal. I'm not gonna talk about it because I'll cry, but his story was, it was personal for me.
And it's that type of compassion and dedication that keeps these dispatchers motivated. They know they're making a difference in the lives of Leon County residents.
But in the end, it is all worth it because you're saving somebody's life. Like, everybody cannot do that. And to be able to do that from a position where I don't have to physically be there, they need to know that you're like a hero when you come here.
And that's why the men and women of the Consolidated Dispatch Agency is the focus of this week's Deputy on Duty. I'm Angela Green for Leon County Today.
Welcome back to Leon County Today. Hearing from some of our telecommunicators out there, it really can be a stressful position that they are in communicating during an emergency.
It's a tough job. I've said often that, as a law enforcement officer, deputy, you're in the field and you're able to act on the situation in front of you. When you're a telecommunicator and you're in the bubble, you might say, and you're hearing all these things coming to you, and sometimes you kind of feel helpless that you can't engage. And it takes a special person to do that job, quite honestly. I've been around telecommunicators my whole life, and they are the lifeblood back to the officer and the deputy in the field to make sure that we're okay. They're checking all the time. If, for example, if we press our button that says we're in distress, they're the ones that are making sure everybody gets there to you. And if you go off the radio and you're not on the radio, they don't hear you for a while, they're going to put a car out there to go find you. So they have a vital role in law enforcement.
They absolutely do, and we appreciate their service for sure. And then talking about our civil citation program, it was really interesting to hear how the program works so efficiently and the different responses we can get from parents as well.
Yes, that's the fact that most of the parents out there understand that we're trying to help their child. And that's what we're having this show today, quite honestly, Shonda, is we want to let the citizens know that civil citations are something that we're trying to keep their kids from going deeper into the process, into the system. And every time we offer those, it's a better alternative. It's absolutely a better alternative than being arrested.
Absolutely. Looking at those improvements and keeping our youth engaged and out of trouble is the goal there, for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
All
Absolutely.
right. Thanks so much, Sheriff. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you back here next week.